What is artificial intelligence? It's a machine, a computer, that can convince another human being that it is a human being. That's Turing's definition of artificial intelligence. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this happened last year, finally. Last year, a machine, a computer, convinced 3 Harvard professors that it is a human being. That's not easy. The questions are not stupid questions, like do you have 2 legs? Questions are very complicated. Write a poem. Or let's talk. Or how do you feel today? And why? And so on. So the questions are very non-structured, because machines, computers, have advantage when it comes to structured. Okay? Chess, mathematics. So there are no such questions. Questions are highly human questions. And so the computer, for instance, wrote a poem. Not easy. Try. You try. You're humans. You try to write a poem. Wrote a poem. Described its mood. Its mood, sorry. Described its mood. Chatted with the 3 professors, and so on. And last year, for the first time in human history, a machine, a computer, based on Watson, IBM's Watson, cheated, deceived 3 professors into believing that it is the human, and the human is the computer. And now we have, finally, according to Turing, truly artificial intelligence. And this leads us to a very interesting question. That is a question known in French philosophy and French psychology, because in France, by the way, philosophy and psychology are very mixed disciplines. There is no distinction like in the United States, where everything is very technical, between technical philosophy and technical psychology. But it's very mixed. So if you have people like Derrida and Baudrillard and so on, they would write, or Foucault, they would write equally on philosophy and psychology and mix the two, and it's flowing, it flows all the time, as used to be the case before scientific psychology was invented in the middle of the 19th century. Before the middle of the 19th century, these were 2 twin disciplines, totally mixed. So, in France, it's called the question of the other. L'autre. The other. Now that computers can cheat us and convince us that they are human, why will we not accept them as human? Why? Because they have metal and silicon and we have carbon? Why are they less human than me? If they are sufficiently good to convince a Harvard professor, let alone 3, that they are human, why aren't they human? In which sense these computers are not human? They don't reproduce. They don't have sex. Question of time.
Not yet, yes.
They don't, many humans don't have also. So fall in love. They don't fall in love. Also question of time. Did you see the movie Blade Runner? Blade Runner. Androids. Philip K. Dick, the famous author. The Electric Ship Dream. Androids there fall in love and have sex and so on. It's really a question of time, there's no doubt about it. Finally, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, there will be androids, robots, machines, computers, whatever you want to call them, who will look exactly like you. They will be with artificial skin or real skin, because today we have 3D printing machines that print real skin. Today, I repeat, we have 3D printers that print real skin. So they will have real skin, they will have a body, they will look exactly like you. And it will be, if we have a Tony Naunovsky robot and a Tony Naunovsky human, I might get confused. And it's not a question of only getting confused, but in which sense that Tony Naunovsky robot is not human. It will be very difficult. So there's a question of the other. But it goes even deeper than that. Because if I relate to a robot as a human, I relate to all humans as robots. What are you to me? Each one of you. A package. You're a package. Your nerves and muscles and other organs packed nicely in shrink wrap skin. And that's it. You claim that you're human. I take your claim as it is. I take your word for it that you're human. You talk to me, I talk to you. We have intersubjective agreement, which I can have with the machine tomorrow. What is your your advantage over robots? In which sense are you not robots? And the answer is, after many decades of thinking and analyzing and so on, that there is no way for you to prove that you are distinct in any way, shape or form from advanced robots of the future who will look like you, smell like you, act like you, talk like you, and think like you. So, the question of the other. Now, why am I mentioning this? I said that we relate to others with empathy. The intersubjective agreement, who is human? The intersubjective agreement about who is human, what constitutes human, we call it empathy. If I have empathy, I relate to you by thinking, how is it to be you? How is it to be you? As I'm thinking, how is it to be you, I can relate to you. It's projection, it's not true, but it works. Okay? We've gone through it. What happens with people who have no empathy? Some people have no empathy. Some people have no sex drive, some people have no hair. Some people, especially in politics, have no balls. But what is it? What do you do if, you can laugh if you want. What do we do when there's no empathy? There are people who have no empathy. We are not sure yet whether it's because of genetics, upbringing, childhood abuse, combination of the three, but for some reason, they lack empathy. They are unable to sign the intersubjective agreement. They cannot put themselves in other people's shoes. What happens with these people? We just said that in order to relate to each other as human beings, we need empathy. If you don't have empathy, you cannot relate to other people as human beings. You have to relate to them. You have to relate to them because you need something from other people. You work with other people. You sleep with other people. You have children with other people. You need other people. You can't isolate yourself completely. My store comes, fixes your television. You can't avoid people, unfortunately. But you can't avoid people.
But some of them.
But if you don't have empathy, how do you relate to these people? You don't have the intersubjective agreement. Well, you relate to them as robots. Simple. You relate to them as avatars. As symbols, as representations, symbols, functions, if you wish, avatars, robots. For you, other people, if you don't have empathy, other people are there as kind of a function that comes and goes. There is also no object constancy. Object constancy means that even when you're not with me, you are still in me. Babies have that. Babies don't have an object constancy. When the mother leaves the room, they begin to cry. Because if mother is not there and they don't see mother, there is no mother. Mother goes, no mother. So people with no empathy don't have object constancy. If I don't have empathy and my wife is here, she is here. But if she is not here, she is not in my mind. They have no object constancy.
Some politicians do that.
Politicians, it's questionable whether they're human at all. Stop. You need a different kind of agreement. Now, the people without empathy are called narcissists. Narcissists and people with extreme form of narcissists in a way that is still debatable, but an extreme form of narcissist is what we call psychopaths. Now this is a complex issue, psychopaths, because there is a big debate. The official diagnostic category is antisocial personality disorder. There is no psychopath. There is no psychopathy in the diagnostic and statistical manner. Only antisocial personality disorder. Psychopathy and sociopathy are terms used mainly by the media and a few scholars, a few psychologists who are not considered orthodox, such as Robert Hare. So there is a group of psychologists that they insist that there is something called psychopath, but the mainstream orthodoxy says there is no psychopath, there is antisocial person. And in the DSM-5, in the latest edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual published last year, narcissism and psychopathy are conflated. They are not amalgamated, they are not put together completely, but they are kind of on a spectrum. Okay. Narcissists and psychopaths have many traits, but the most important thing, one, if I have to choose a single thing that characterizes them, they have no empathy. They don't have empathy. So they are unable to relate to other people. They relate to other people only in as much as these people give them something, in as much as these people are functional in their lives. So mostly it's what I call narcissistic supply, attention. Attention, admiration, adulation, affirmation. But not only. Services. So only then they relate to other people. They don't care about other people's emotions, partly because they have no access to their own emotions. Needs, other people's needs, priorities, preferences, wishes are non-existent. Because they don't really relate to other people. They relate to the function that other people fulfill in their lives. They relate, it's like through a glass. They don't really touch someone else. They touch the glass behind which there is someone else. And so they need the glass. They need to interact with the glass, not with the person. So they don't care about the other person's priorities and so on. It makes it, of course, very difficult also to communicate with them. Because in order to communicate, we must have an intersubjective agreement. Communication is based on being similar. This is why it would be very difficult to communicate with an octopod from Neptune. Because an octopod from Neptune is not likely to be similar to you. And you will not have a dictionary. But it's easier for me to communicate with Lydia or Zoran or Tony because we have a lot in similar. We have a lot together, common. The intersubjective agreement. Narcissists have no empathy. They have no intersubjective agreement. They cannot communicate. For them, for the narcissist, everyone else is an alien. Everyone else came from another planet. And they cannot talk to aliens, extraterrestrials. They use the extraterrestrial for services, for narcissistic supply, attention, this, that, but they can't communicate with the alien. Are they lonely? Not really. They are not lonely, because the narcissist is his own object, as we say in psychology. When we grow up as children, we begin to notice that there are other people except us. You know, until the age of about 2, we are totally solipsistic. We know only that we exist. Even mother is our extension. Mother, there's no mother and we. There's mother, we. Mother is our continuation. As we grow up, there is a break. It's a very traumatic break, and there is a whole sea of literature. After the age of 2, when the child suddenly notices that the mother is not part of him. The mother is not part of the child. The child suddenly sees that there is mother and there is me. It's a child break, traumatic break, second birth. And we call this object relations. This is when we have suddenly an object and we relate to it. Narcissists, and psychopaths of course, stop before this stage. They don't progress beyond this. They have no object relations because they have no objects. They are the true solipsists. They and they alone exist. There's no one else there. All of you are, to the narcissist, all of you are kind of dim reflections on distant screens. From time to time I will touch the screen because I need your function. Touch you, bring you forth, like a computer, exactly, like a touch screen. You touch the screen, bring you forward, use you, and remove my finger and you should disappear. If you refuse to disappear, it's a malfunction. If you insist on being real with a narcissist, if you say, hey, wait a minute, I'm real. I'm a real human being with my needs, with my wishes, with my hopes, with my fears. The narcissist is, even I would say, terrified. As you would be terrified if an icon on the computer would wake up and start talking to you. As you would be terrified. Exactly the same. Now, in my books on narcissism, I suggested that narcissists and psychopaths don't have empathy, but they have a variant of empathy, which I call cold empathy. Cold empathy. So everyone has warm empathy. Warm empathy goes with emotions. Cold empathy is the ability to fully understand other people, but without emotions. Exactly like I would read the user manual of a laptop. So I would fully understand the laptop, but of course I don't fall in love with the laptop. Well, it depends which laptop actually.
Why is it called router?
Depends which laptop, but you understand what I mean. So I say that the narcissist has cold empathy, the ability to read other people, like X-ray. It's not like the narcissist has X-ray, Röntgen, and is able to look at someone and read that person, but in a cold, calculated way, like I would read a manual of a television set or a refrigerator, or a laptop, and say, oh, this is the person. Now, in order to get him to do this, I need to push this button. These are his buttons. I need to push his button. This is his vulnerability. This is his weakness. These are his fears. These are his needs. And I can push these needs and fears and vulnerabilities to get him to do what I want. And this is what I call cold empathy. So there's no emotions. But this is a new suggestion, a new one. And it's still not accepted. The current orthodoxy in psychology is that there is no empathy at all. I don't think it's possible not to have empathy at all, because if you have no empathy at all, how does the narcissist know to manipulate people? Narcissists manipulate people all the time. How can you manipulate if you have nothing in common? I mean, no ability to read someone. So I think there is cold empathy, but definitely not the classic type of empathy. Psychopaths are even worse. While the narcissist regards other people as potentialities, so if I look at you, if a narcissist looks at you, he would relate to you as a potential for, let's say, narcissistic supply, or you. All potentials for narcissistic supply. Right now, the narcissist doesn't need supply, so he doesn't activate you. But when he needs supply, he will activate you. How will he activate you? You need compliments, he will give you compliments. You need to feel intelligent, he will make you feel intelligent. You need to feel beautiful, he will tell you you're beautiful, whatever. So whatever it takes, he will push your buttons. He will read you out, like a Röntgen machine, or MRI, or computerized tomography, CT, and then push your buttons. The psychopath doesn't bother, even with it. Psychopath not only lacks empathy, but lacks the wish to interact with people. Narcissist is forced to interact with people because the narcissist needs narcissistic supply. The narcissist needs to be told that he is brilliant, that he is perfect, that he is beautiful, that he is amazing, that he is one of a kind. Narcissist needs this constant adulation, admiration, attention. If he stops getting it, he falls apart, like the vampire. No narcissistic supply, no narcissist. Narcissistic supply is used to regulate the narcissist's sense of self-worth. Self-worth. Some of values. Self-worth. Narcissists, the sense of self-worth of the narcissist fluctuates. One day he thinks he's God, one day he thinks he's zero. One day he thinks he's God, one day. So in order to keep thinking that he's God, which is a good feeling, to feel God, he needs constantly people to tell him you're God, you're God, you're God. So he needs people to regulate his sense of self-worth and to keep it euphoric, to keep it on this level. Psychopaths don't need people at all. They don't need narcissistic supply. They don't need people at all. Psychopaths dehumanize. and objectify. In other words, they treat people as total objects. They don't expect anything from people. They don't want from you attention, adulation, admiration, nothing. They don't want anything from you. They want to be able to get to you as an object, take you, shake you, get from you what they want. They want money, whatever they want from you, sex, whatever. So, narcissists, psychopaths, dehumanize and objectify. The extreme form of psychopath, the one we see in movies, is of course the psychopathic, sadistic serial killer. Most serial killers are sexual sadists, but also have been diagnosed with psychopathy. Robert Hare made 30 years of studies in prisons and interviewed, I think, all the serial killers in the universe. And all of them were, more than 80% of them were diagnosed as psychopaths, as well as some of them, a small minority, were sexual sadists. Now, the serial killer objectifies to the maximum, because it's very common for a serial killer to take a trophy. What is trophy? Body part. Body part. A nose, an ear, vagina, whatever, body parts. This is the ultimate objectification. While the psychopath will, the regular psychopath will come to you and regard you as a bank account, or as a sex machine, or and will treat you as a bank account or a sex machine or whatever, until he gets what he wants. And if he doesn't get what he wants, he will get violent in most cases. That's a classic psychopath. The serial killer psychopath will treat you totally as object. He will rape you, kill you, cut you off, and take you as souvenir. In most cases, it's called trophy. So this is the extreme, the extent to which it can get. This is the extent to which it can get. Narcissists will not cut you off, because they need you for narcissistic supply and so on and so forth. But they will not hesitate to damage you in other ways. They will take souvenirs from you in other ways, maybe not body parts, but other things. There's no, narcissists and psychopaths deserve their own, but narcissists and psychopaths are extreme forms of mental illness. Yes?
A question about the cold empathy. So is that something that defines narcissists and psychopaths? And it's only found in narcissists and psychopaths? Or is that something that they possess? Because there are a lot of other examples of social manipulators, like social predators and the liars. I don't remember.
Okay.
People who lie all the time.
Pathological liars.
Yeah, pathological liars. They do this, they possess a kind of cold empathy, but it's not what defines it.
My contention, which is now common thinking, is that most of these people are narcissists and psychopaths, actually. Social predators, pathological liars, and so on are either narcissistic or psychopathic. Usually, if there is a money motivation and so on, they're psychopathic. If there is a motivation of aggrandizement, to feel great, to feel grandiose, it's usually not narcissistic. The difference between narcissist and psychopath is that the narcissist wants one thing and the psychopath another. Narcissist wants narcissistic attention, grandiosity, inflation, self-inflation, and so on. And psychopath wants practical things, money, sex, and so on. Both of them manipulate, both of them lie, both of them regard people as objects and so on. Cold empathy is a new suggestion, my suggestion,
Yeah,
it's not part of the
but
authors.
you're
But I suggest that I propose
idea.
that it's limited to narcissists and psychopaths. You can go to my YouTube channel and there is a video on cold empathy. My YouTube channel. Very original.
And how to remember.
Narcissists and psychopaths are extreme mental health cases, but dehumanization and objectification are common responses, much more common than narcissists and psychopaths. Narcissists and psychopaths together are less than 2% of the clinical population. Population who gets to the mental health system. So it's a very small number of people. But objectification and dehumanization, treating people not as humans but as objects, that is much more common. Of course, a very famous example is the way Nazis regarded the Jews. They dehumanized the Jews. They made propaganda films comparing the Jews to mice, to vermin, to fleas, to viruses, and so on. They dehumanized the Jews, then they objectified the Jews. They treated the Jews as objects. They took them off the train, immediately dumped them in a gas chamber, killed them in the gas chamber, burned the bodies, processed the bodies, made soap out of the bodies, converted them to real objects. So, in objectification and dehumanization are very common collective responses to conflict. Collective responses to conflict. When Rwanda, where Tutsi and Hutus dehumanized, objectified each other. Whenever there's a conflict, especially eruptive conflict, we dehumanize and objectify. Even with the Ebola epidemic, we have dehumanizing, objectifying reactions to people, especially since we isolate them, we put them away, like they're objects, we put them away, we quarantine them. It's a logical, rational response, but it's also objectifying response. Whenever it's a collective, not individual, we're stressed, we're in conflict, we react, we become psychopaths. Simple. The Nazi period was a period of ascendant psychopathy. The psychopath was in charge, but vast majority of Germans became psychopaths as well. Shared psychosis. Coming back full circle. It's possible for a collective to become psychopathic or narcissistic. It is an infectious disease, an epidemic. We should not think of mental health as something unique or isolated to individuals. Individuals can and do infect each other with Ebola, but with psychopathy also. With malaria or tuberculosis, but also with narcissism. So we have collective responses and collective mental health issues. The final topic. The final topic is the current state of psychology. The dirty secret of psychologists, as distinct from psychiatrists. Psychiatrists are also medical doctors. But the dirty secret of psychologists is that when they grow up, they want to be scientists. They want to feel that psychology is an exact science. They want to feel that they are physicists. They envy physicists. Physicists envy. I'm saying physicists because I'm a physicist. So also physicists. So they envy physicists. Physicists deal with quantifiable elements. They have beautiful machines. They get Nobel Prizes. They're famous. They appear on Discovery Channel and so on. It's very unnerving. Huge envious reactions. And so, psychiatry has always been distinct from psychology. Psychiatrists always held psychologists in low regard, especially talk therapists. Psychiatrists always thought that talk therapists are quack doctors, shamans, witch doctors. So whenever you talk to a psychiatrist anywhere in the world, doesn't matter where, they will poo-poo, they will berate psychologists and definitely therapists.